So, welcome everybody to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. And today is Wednesday, March the 10th, 2021. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. Now, see, Tipia is with us from Thailand. She's in the chat room. Good to have you with us today. And tonight is another intensive class. I told Michael it seems like this week has gone by. It's been like really a long time since we've had class. It hasn't been, but it just feels that way. So we're giving Michael just a minute to get dialed in, and then we'll turn Tim Bingham on and see what we can do to support him. And thank you for that, MindShifter. So we'll give him just a minute. I'll direct everybody to the website, which is whyagain.org, and click on the bullseye or the start here, and both of those take you to the same place. And getting ready to make a few changes on the website, so keep your eye out for anything that might seem to have a glitch in it and let me know. And hopefully all the changes will be done by the end of the month. The people who host our website, she's tried to talk me into moving over to WordPress instead of Joomla for a long time. So hopefully that transition will go smoothly. She says it's a lot easier to operate. I said, well, include a little learning time for me to train me what I'm supposed to know or how I'm supposed to do it. So hold the space that goes over very well. And welcome, Michael. We have Tim Bingham already with his hand up, but
sweet. Let's say hello to the young man.
All righty. Mr. Bingham, you are on the air.
Hello, Michael and Jeanie.
Hey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. The reason I'm calling is when I sit down to do a worksheet, I end up doing a worksheet on the same things, which is my fear of driving or fear of working out on the treadmill or something demanding of me. And when I get down to the part where I'm supposed to put down what is my goal, I come up with the same thing again and again, which doesn't get me anywhere, which is that I want to go back to being a small boy and being taken care of, and I don't want to deal with the threats of day-to-day life. And I get stuck there. I keep coming to the same point and getting stuck.
So my first piece of input would be to recognize that really you don't have fear of driving, you don't have fear of being on the treadmill or anything else, you just have fear. Your mind can use it, when it generates your perception about a particular object of attention. If fear is active in you, then your mind will use it, and your mind will tend to say, see, you have fear about that. But the truth is, it's just that underlying fear. And the closer you get to recognizing that, the faster you're going to be able to undo it. And it kind of sounds like the bottom line is that perhaps as a child you didn't experience being taken care of, and that there's this really strong addictive need to be taken care of.
Right. I think that's true.
How about a MindShifter?
Okay. Let me get a paper and pen here. Okay.
It's safe and healing. It's safe and healing. And I, Tim Bingham, Tim Bingham, will thrive I, Tim Bingham, will thrive even if I'm totally abandoned. What happens to your breath when I say that?
It got shallow.
Okay.
Even
so that
if
might be a good... Tim Bingham.
What was the last part?
Am totally abandoned.
Even if I am totally abandoned.
Where does your mind go when I say that, when you say that?
I remember being a fat little boy and getting disapproval from my father for being a klutz and not being supported and left to my own devices. So I feel that from early childhood.
Okay. So how about one more mind shifter to tie in with that?
Okay.
My own devices are powerful enough to cause me to thrive.
My own devices are powerful enough to cause me to thrive.
Yeah. And what does that resonate for you?
I'm confused by what it means. My own devices are powerful enough to cause me to thrive. I'm
so
confused.
The first thing to go on the right side of the page would be I'm confused. Don't know what that means.
Okay.
And so I think if you spend some time with that one, you're going to get more clarity on who you are and the resources that you really do have. That you otherwise, with this fear, keep away from yourself. Does that make sense?
Say that last thing again.
That I think if you work on that, you'll get the clarity on who you are and what your real resources are. And as you do that, that's going to begin the disassembly and the liberation from that, my resources aren't enough. I can't survive on my own. I can't do it on my own.
Oh.
I just take a couple-hour time period and write that mind shifter and just let whatever wants to flow from your heart, from your unconscious mind, and start to look at it and see where there's more forgiveness needed.
Okay.
So why don't you try those two, and let's talk again in a day or two and see what moves for you.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, sir.
Thanks.
And we'll be holding the space in the meantime.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, we appreciate you. And for anybody that happens to be new to the show, let me take just a moment and talk about this idea of a mind shifter. Because if you haven't had it explained, it sounds pretty strange. So our definition of a mind shifter is that a mind shifter is a thought about an issue in your life around which you have negative thoughts, and it's the opportunity to surface, process, and release the negative thoughts. And the way that you use a mind shifter, you take a piece of paper, you split the page in two. On the left-hand side of the page, you write the mind shifter. And on the right-hand page, you just do a brain dump. Everything that comes up in response to that. And so with that one about resources, what I suspect Jim's going to find is, as he touches into a deeper level and passes the mind that says he doesn't have enough to survive, that he's going to start to touch into more and more, of the truth about him and what his real resources are, who his real being is. And when I open and let that in and displace the thought disorders that my resources aren't enough, then I step into a whole different experience in my life. So that's the idea of a mind shifter. And, if you've got a serious lifetime issue, such as Tim's talking about here, going right back to childhood, then that's the kind of mind shifter that you really want to spend time writing and working with, and just really observing what, since the mind works through the law of resonance. If I about the color of your car, what moves in your mind? The color of your car. If I talk about the resources I have or don't have, then the file in my mind about my resources will tend to resonate, will tend to move in me. And that's usually a part of the mind that most people don't look at. And so when you get it moving, you get to look at it, review it, dump the stuff that doesn't belong, and put in what does belong. Bring it back into harmony with truth. So that's the idea of using a mind shifter. Again, it's a thought that through resonance resonates, moves, surfaces, whatever needs to be processed and relieved, whatever thought disorders are there. If somebody puts forward, if a powered person puts forward something like a thought disorder, like, well, you'll never make it on your own with your intelligence, that would be the kind of thought that would tend to go into that file in the mind on resources and keep the true empowering resources that we have hidden from us. And so the idea of the mind shifter is to uncover and take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just dump it all out on the page, and then once you finish the mind shifter, and I'm saying with something as deep as this, maybe 3 or 4 hours of writing, then go back over what you've written and use the tools. You might use forgiveness in one place, you might use the commitment in another place, you might use the codependent tool in another, whatever it is that is an appropriate tool for working through whatever surfaces. So that's the idea of a mind shifter. And if you have any questions about that, we'd be delighted if you pushed one and asked your questions. But before we go into more questions, we're going to take a look at and read a little bit more from Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And so we are on a chapter in Why Is This Happening to Me Again on projection and externalization. If you're in the book, we're on page 45, heading into the second paragraph. And we're talking about how the mind operates, how perception works, and how the mind tends to generate a world of pictures that really doesn't exist anywhere but in the mind. A tree doesn't exist the way you see it. If you could alter the rate of vibration at which your eye receives information from a tree, from the energy field of a tree, it would be something quite different from the looking at leaves and branches and a trunk. If you looked at the actual energy field, the actuality about the tree. So the mind generates a perceptual world according to the content that's resonated by whatever that object of attention is. And so the idea here is to recognize that when the mind generates a perceptual construct, a reality, that reality exists only in one place, and that's in the mind. We've been taught to think that because we, quote unquote, think we're seeing it, that it's actually out there. But the truth is, what we see is a product of the firing of brain cells and is an internal process for most people. When you wake up, you get the opportunity to open your higher faculties and to experience what's actually there more directly than your mind could possibly show it to you. So we're looking at the fact that the firing of brain cells and the fact that those brain cells fire creates an image in our mind that process is actually projection. Taking data, taking digital information and turning it into pictures is projection. Then when I pretend that what I've projected, the picture in my mind, is actually outside of me, then I've attempted to, or I'm pretending that is now external to me. So the mind we offer, Richard, is a prism through which we view life. If there is any distortion, any representation or negative feeling, that resentment or negative feeling clouds perception and colors our view of the world. That is why the first law of seeing is love. A mind that constantly holds the condition of love, regardless of the circumstance, distorts nothing and is incapable of projection or externalization. So what we're saying, if you go back 2,000 years ago, you hear this man Yeshua, and they say to him, you're talking to us about being human and law and all these laws that you've got. Tell us, what's the first law in being a human being? Now, the Greeks tell us that he responded, love your neighbor, love God as yourself. His response in Aramaic was not even close to that idea. That thought, that Greek idea of love God, love neighbor as yourself, is the result of externalization. Yeshua was talking about the conditions you needed to create in the inner world. And what he said that the Greeks translated as love is have rakma. So he's talking about something inside of your mind. And it is that filter and gateway, when it's open, that powers the human mind properly. A mind that is not powered properly, a mind that is not fueled by love, is not truly a human mind. And so, in response to their question, in essence, what he said is, the first law of being human is you've got to make sure your mind is fueled by love. And if it is, and there's something going on in you in regard to any circumstance that is less than love, the presence and the activity of love in your mind will heal you. The denial, the dissociation, the pushing away of love will leave you stuck in your perceptual constructs generation after generation after generation. So the first order of business, he said, is if you want to actually function as a human being, the power supply that fuels your mind has to be love. When it is, everything changes. Now you take a look around and just listen to the language that most people use, and it's pretty obvious there's not much love going on out there. There's not much contact with the actual presence of human life in this human form. So many people have bought into a world based in hostility and fear. And so again, the first order of business, Yeshua is saying is, keep active, present love there. Keep the filter open and active that allows true active love to be in your mind, and everything's going to change. When there's a distortion within the mind, we live within its meaning. So whatever the distortion is will become the meaning we give to whatever we look at. Someone who holds a thought disorder of, I'm no good, couldn't look at themselves in the mirror and say, well, that person's no good. That distortion is going to be transparent as it's integrated into the picture the mind shows of oneself. And Yeshua never spoke about loving your neighbor as yourself. What was said there is that if you keep this condition of Rahma active in your mind, when you think of the two main objects of attention for a human being, and that is the creator or neighbor. And in Aramaic, neighbor means anybody that you think about. If you keep the condition of love active in your mind, then you will maintain your true self. You'll maintain your human life, which is love. And, of course, one of the first games that most of the world plays is make sure you shut down that presence of love in that person. We all come in with that presence, as that presence, literally as our human life force. The world specializes in knocking us out of that state, and then it delivers a message. A message that's a total lie. It says, now, go find somebody to love you, or go find somebody to love. So love now becomes a verb, something that you do rather than what you are. When you forget that you are love, then the human mind is now working on an inadequate fuel. It's like taking your beautiful new diesel Mercedes-Benz into the gas station and filling it with E85. How long do you suppose it's going to run? Not going to run very well for very long. So it would be kind of an equivalent question. If you were to say to me, Michael, what's the first law to me keeping this beautiful new Mercedes diesel running well? In place of Rachma, I would say make sure you use high-quality diesel fuel. Yeshua was saying make sure you use high-quality fuel for a human mind, and that fuel is love. It's the first order of business. When there's a distortion within the mind, we live within the meaning of that distortion. If anyone who remotely resembles a person we hold a grievance against comes into awareness, we will instantly project our reality into our brain's image of them, tend to believe that it is they who are the source of our grievance and pain, rather than accepting responsibility for the content of our own minds. Again, attempting to place our brain's image outside of ourselves blocks the ability to heal what someone triggers in us and leads to experiencing the same realities repeatedly. So if I never learn to forgive a distortion within my mind, I'm going to live within the meaning of that distortion with whoever happens to be able to trigger it, whether it's me in the mirror, a parent, a friend, someone close, someone far away. And I'm going to feel the effects of that. And if I don't know that that's coming from me, if I think that my mind's picture or constructed perception of them is actually a picture of them, that I'm going to be stuck in that block. So there's the essence of why is this happening to me. Only when we take responsibility can we change the foundations of our perception. So that's our number one invitation. Take responsibility for the perceptual output of your mind. If you don't like it, recognize that you have a problem. Not they have a problem, but if your perception is pain, you have a problem. And when you can own that, then you can begin to change that. Then you can begin to apply forgiveness and change that dynamic within you. And so they're the kinds of dynamics we're here to change. That's the support we're here to offer. And we are honored and delighted that you are part of the conversation. And hopefully, if there are pieces of this work, especially radio shows that really resonate for you, and you have the thought, boy, Bill could really use this show, then please, at the end of the show, go to our website, whyagain.org. On that home page, there is a picture of a microphone. Click on the microphone, follow the links, drill down to today's show. And shortly after the show is complete, there'll be an MP3. And you can download that MP3 free and send it to someone, or you can just go to the MP3 link copy the link and send it to someone. You don't have to download the whole thing. And share it, pass it on, hand it off to somebody. If you're not utilizing the forgiveness process, you can go to that same home page, and up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a link that says Start Here. Click the link, and it'll begin to walk you through step by step, literally everything we know about forgiveness. There's nothing that I know about forgiveness that isn't on that website. We have put everything we can possibly put into the archives, into the pages on that site, so that you have free access to it. And so, Miss Jeanie, we're at about the 35 minutes left in the show. So I'm hoping we've got lots of conversation ready to go, and somebody out there with a hand up in the phone queue.
We do not have a hand up, but I have a question in the chat room. It's
Sweet.
From Tipia in Thailand, and she said she has a friend who has cancer, and how can she use the worksheet to help her?
Well, my offering would be that with someone with any physical disease, there's a part of the mind that's involved in that. And when you begin to deal with that part of the mind through forgiveness, you literally tend to start moving in the direction of removing those dis-ease energies. You know, people tend to think of the body as a physical thing. My offering is there is no physical body. What we have is an energy body. And relative to that energy body, there are only two qualities of energy. There's that which builds the system up and makes it strong and healthy, and that which tears the system down and destroys it. So I would be inviting the person with cancer to start to look at what kind of mental and emotional things are happening in their lives, and take the tools and begin to forgive as to those things, literally, to remove the energetic patterns of disease. And when the pattern has been lifted from the tissue structure, the tissue will go back to a healed state. So I would say, Tipia, and it's nice to hear from you, that you simply begin to present the tools and support the person who is ill in using those tools and beginning to really work with, and not just the forgiveness tool, but every tool that we've got, perhaps taking the first-person commitment, inviting that person to sit in front of the mirror and really deeply connect with themselves in a loving way and speak the commitment to themselves. It might be to take the codependent sheet that you've done in the intensive, where you do the different columns, and to look at the issues involved if she does that sheet with people in her life. So you could literally take any and every one of the tools and invite her to start to use them to alleviate the dis-ease process. We live in a culture that talks about disease like it's a single word and it's an entity that's, it's out to get us. When you break that word down, dis-ease, those energies that do not produce ease within us, produce disturbed states. If I can remove those disturbed states, I'm going to be empowering my structure to go back to a healthy state. So you could literally take any and all of the tools and invite that person to put them to use. And certainly, as you present them and questions come up, this will probably be a person that will teach you a great deal as they ask their questions. And if any of the questions you don't have an answer to, then we are absolutely here to support you in getting answers to those questions and making it real for that person. I hope that makes sense. If there are any other questions, go for it.
She hasn't typed anything yet in the chat room. We do have a hand up.
Okay. Well, Thipia, you go ahead and type, and we'll answer the person whose hand is up, and we'll come back to your thoughts or questions when we complete with that conversation. Let's say hello.
She just typed, okay, she understands.
Great.
So, okay, and the hand is area code 727. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Patrick.
Patrick McGann. How are you, young man?
Patrick, you've disappeared.
Did we lose him?
Can you hear me now?
He's still there.
Oh,
he
there
is.
you go. We can hear you. Loud and clear. How are you, sir?
Pretty good.
What's happening in your world?
Well, I'll repeat what I was talking to you about before to bring people up to date.
Okay.
And then I have things that I was doing I never did before from about 3 different areas that I'm using. So usually I tried for the past 6 months, like back when I got to Avison, to create Healing Crisis, and I was able to do that every other day. So it was a 3-day cycle, and I thought I knew how to really get through Healing Crisis fast and smooth by moving the energy, moving the blood, moving the breath, moving the body, looking at the beauty of life, looking at the beauty of nature to counterbalance. And then I had this one where I got triggered, and my major trigger was abuse of another person or abuse of myself or disrespect, any of the above. And I would lose it to defend them or defend myself without thought, no thought, just instantaneous defense. So when I was never conquered that one, been working on it, and it's making my relationship better, but it comes up again. So it came up a new level that I was looking for another level, and I went to a friend of mine who's a healer, and he's very intuitive and very in-depth, amazing kind of a healer. And I said, but his concepts on forgiveness were very, very different, but I figured I'd use everything else that he had, and I'd deal with forgiveness my way, figured that he was burying too much in his system. But I wanted to get it out of mine because I stuffed it all in. So it's like, okay, but what's the concept? What's the belief system? What's the program that's creating this feeling over and over again? So as I got in touch with it, and I processed it and changed my face and changed my energy field and felt much lighter. And then he said during the session, there's a deeper level. And I said, okay, let's go for it. So he said, well, he put his hand on his forehead and went inside, and he said, well, in 1720, you had your head cut off for something you didn't do. And that I had just, told him that was a trigger I was working with, that if someone goes to punish me and I hadn't done anything, I'm beside myself. I just don't have, as of yet, I had not had control over my reactivity. So to defend myself or, act out or whatever. So when he said that, and he used his clearing methods and said, all this is, he didn't say that was clear. He said other things were clear for, some expansion in life that was really fantastic permanently. And he did a lot of great work. And then as I left, I realized I was a wreck. And then I became a bigger wreck and a bigger wreck and a bigger wreck, and, realized I was pretty much in a hell zone. And I was able to go home and lay down on an easy chair, lay back, get out of gravity, and use an intense massage machine, a Morpham, to open up the whole front of my body and some of my neck and some of my shoulders. But the back of my body was driving me insane because it was just so solidified with pain. So I went to another friend who asked me to come by to trade. Actually, it wasn't supposed to be a trade, but it ended up on some body work where she wanted to work on me. And I knew the machine she wanted to use, which was our rotopercussor, what's not a rotopercussor, it's a fascial gun, wasn't going to dent the amount of intense pain, was going to run out of juice before it did get it through what was going on in me. So I said, well, let's bring the Morpham, and I'll show her how to use it. And she did, and opened up the energy flow on the back of my body. And then we went to dinner, and I felt so much better. But all of a sudden, all the emotion just popped out on every subject, just poured out. And I realized at least things were moving again. But I was like holding on for dear life for the intensity of what I was processing. And then as time went on to the early evening past sunset, after dinner, I'm driving home, I realized I am really in pain everywhere. And, man, you know, it's like I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm just going to do what I have to do. But I felt like crying. And I'm a guy who never cries, blah, 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 hardly ever, except for when you come around. So I was like, okay. And I want to go to bed. I want to take my shower, wash off the day. And I woke up today, and I felt much better, but I slept. I normally go to bed around 11, 11:30, 12, get up to 5:36, 6:30, so I went to bed at 9:30 and woke up groggy and feeling like I was beat to a pulp, run over by trucks at about 5:30 and started working on myself with a basher gun, heat, Avicin, and loosening up and getting things moving again and feeling a little bit better. And but I included something different by accident that happened, which I thought was phenomenal. I had listened to a person talk yesterday. They called me working on the idea of the Tao, and I said the definition they gave you is way off, and I may be way off, but it has not much to do with what the dictionary definition is. And I said it's much deeper than that. And she was feeling bad towards herself for going out after working real hard and making a living and being stressed that she was going to go ride a bicycle. I should do this or I should do that. I said, no. I said, that's the yin. I said, you've yanged yourself and compressed yourself and gone through the struggles of survival in life. Now it's time to include the beauty of life. And that way, when you expand and take that in, you're going to feel a lot better. So that was yesterday. So all of a sudden I find myself thinking, oh, yeah, this music popped on my computer this morning while I'm doing the absinthe. And it's this unbelievable.
Maybe I need some beauty?
I think I sent it to you. I hope I did. But I put it online for other people to listen to. So I was doing centerline balancing also. And I felt that every time I went off center, I went into crappy emotions that I could feel for the first time. I had become more sensitive overnight, and I like to be centered, so I went to center and listened to this beautiful symphonic music that was just voices. And the voices penetrated through frequencies all through the cells of my body and higher energies. And even though I was processing, releasing pain, I was doing it while I was including and thought about, what's that guy's name, the water guy, the crystals in your body, check out. I was thinking, I'm inputting, I'm doing the yin, I'm doing this beautiful input into my cells as the negativity that I created is leaving. I'm including and reprogramming to receive and to enjoy much higher levels of joy and enjoyment that I haven't been okay with because I've been working to prove that I'm, that separation of myself, thinking the love's outside me, I have to perform. And then this decision was already made overnight that, no, I'm really going to expand and enjoy life and play and add a lot more play to my life. I'm not going to be this workaholic anymore. So I was really, really, really getting some energies of a high frequency that were taking over my body while I was listening to this. And I'm going, all this really high frequencies are coming through. And I said, this is going to be a new thing for me. I'm going to let go of all old patterns and include these new patterns of enjoyment and effortlessness. And I got up and I started walking, and I found that my body walked fluidly, like all the chunky steps that I've been trying to work out over the past year or 2 years was gone, and that I moved fluidly. My legs were fluid and enjoyable, and everything was nicer. And then the process on the yang side wasn't finished, so I'm just going with the flow. And later, a friend calls me who I had been treating like very quick, very businesslike, and to the point. Let's just move on. And I realized 3 days ago, approximately, that in doing that, that was part of this program of being saving lives. And you got to get busy, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to do it fast. So I decided to quit that, but I hadn't achieved a breakthrough at a, mind level or program level. And all of a sudden it was different. And I talked to the friend who we were really blank, like wall friend, and she was having to put up with me being short to the point, business-like all the time. And I just listened to her and did other work physically. So I put the phone on, and we became real friends. And I enjoyed her company immensely. And I had realized on a mental level, but not open to it, that that's what life is all about, enjoyment and friends. And I knew how to enjoy nature, but I really wasn't enjoying but about one friend. And now I was really enjoying this person that I considered, strenuous to be around or talk to. And instead it was like total new, wondrous, open, and I was learning from them and enjoying them and at a whole new level. So
cool.
That's my process.
Sweet.
And then they brought up stuff, and they asked me a question. I explained some things, and more stuff came up and began to cry again. Couldn't hardly believe while talking to them. Yeah.
Question. Let's go back full circle.
Yeah.
Did you look at and cancel the goal to be treated fairly by people?
If I looked at and canceled, I've canceled that one multiple times before, and I canceled it again this morning.
Good.
Twice.
So what happens right now if you just say to yourself, I cancel the goal, I cancel the need to be treated fairly by people?
First, I want to cough because there's still energy there. You always help me bring it up to a higher, deeper level, to a higher level. So, say those words again so I can get them right.
I cancel my need.
I cancel my need to be treated fairly.
To be treated fairly by people.
I cancel. I cancel my need to be treated fairly by people. I cancel my need to be treated fairly by people.
Is there anybody in particular that comes to mind?
Yeah, you just tuned in on the other stress factor that brought up the healing crisis anyway, and that was that my wife and I we had a phishing call that shut down. We had to shut down all accounts and turn them off, get all new cards for 5 different accounts and get new numbers for 2 accounts. And we just got the cards back in, and the stress was really high, and it brought up some stress where crisis started. But I realized at that point it wasn't just the stress of she and I having to go back through this together. It was a stress that I had overextended myself in my nature to help other people, and that 2 people were not, in my opinion, my projection, treating me fairly. One wasn't communicating, and I was putting my credit and my finances on the line and deteriorating them and not answering. And the other, it totally disappeared out of my life. They had some real problems, but they weren't communicating at all, and they weren't paying at all. And I was, under some stress from and feeling like I wasn't being treated fairly in life.
So I'd support
on
you
those
taking,
issues.
Yeah, I'd support you doing some worksheets around each of those people with the specifics of those situations and see what that drills down into.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I was glad you tuned in on that.
Yeah. As you do tune into that, is there any part of you that comes up that it has the experience of not treating others fairly?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I owe 3 friends $300, and I've remembered it and tried to find them for 20 years. So I never paid back 3 loans, $300 each. So I will find them.
Might be a good cleanup job to do.
Yeah, I've been working on it. But now, guess what? there was a new program online, which I'll find again. Most of those things that find people aren't that good, and I just found my daughter after 20 years.
Wow.
So I think they got pretty good. So I will join that one and find those 3 friends. And I haven't been able to find them any other way. Maybe that'll help out.
So were you being treated fairly around the situation where your daughter disappeared?
Well, her disappearance, I never felt like she treated me unfairly. I thought that she was unfair to herself. I did feel that that my wife, ex-wife, deliberately, at the time I heard there were reasons why, but yeah, basically she was afraid that I would steal her, is what I learned later, that I would abduct her or take her. So she hid her from me from age about, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, till I had a CIA friend who found her for me through, different methods that they use. But she was 21 before I found her. From, I think the last time I related to her was age 12, her birthday. And then so 12 to 21. So that I considered unfair.
Is there anything you need to go back and clean up with your former around you're treating her unfairly?
Treating
that
my
she
former
perceived
unfairly?
you as such a threat?
Not. Yeah, I don't know. What I was told was by some site. I don't know that this stuff's real, but I will say that it has a mutation of an energy, and therefore needs to be dealt with. So what some psychic friend told me is that in a past life, you left her and took the child away from her, and that's why she was so scared to death this lifetime that you would do the same thing again, and it was your reactivity karma. Now, I don't know what's true. Really don't. I do know that before that, I think I felt treated unfairly because that wife had an affair. And what else? And then, I don't know. Maybe it was another time, another place. Maybe she just had a lot of injury. Like I remember the injury that she had, the major injury she had, was that she was born and needed heart surgery right away. And the surgeon said to her mother, never let this child go out in the cold and never leave this child alone for a moment. So I think that me just working a job pushed her buttons on being left alone, just, 40 hours plus travel time a week. And therefore she went and had an affair because she just couldn't be alone, possibly. And I think that possibly on the fear of losing. Oh yeah, the other thing is when after our daughter was born, we were living up at Crystal River. I was working on a new plant, and I had an apartment with a dining downstairs where everything was paid for, and she didn't have to cook or clean or do anything. And I would come home and she was totally exhausted every day. So I believed that, she can't leave this child alone for a minute. She worries all the time. And then I was in the apartment. It was cold outside, and the baby was crying, and it was ricocheting off the walls. And I could feel it, her own cries, ricocheting, echoing, and making her afraid and making her cry more. So I was going to go outside, and my wife said, "Don't you take that child outside in the cold," It's like, because I got to be protected. I said, I got to do this. So I did. She went outside. She breathed in deep and relaxed and stopped crying. But then we went out on a date for the first time in, 3 months after the child was born. We had a babysitter up in Crystal River, and we went out and we ordered the food. The food came. She says, "We have to go immediately because that girl's got a cat, and it may scratch the child and put out her eye, and you got to go." So we went kind of like that, never any kind of. There's a lot of fear, a lot of fear. And
so the thought comes, it might be worth writing a letter to her or making contact with her and just having a cleanup conversation.
I'll have to do that one. I'll do the letter on my own, and I'll do. I don't know what to clean up, but But all she ever told me was, I want you to be my brother instead of my husband, and said, you're like, you like expand and go here and go here and go there, and I just want to be, you're like the sun and the rise, and I just want to be like this pecan tree here in South Georgia. So I just want to stay here and watch your seasons change, and I'll be your sister. And did I feel unfairly treated? You remember we went to court on that one because she said she wanted to make her parents placate, since they were well off, that they would triple the normal child support, but that she wouldn't enforce it. So I go ahead and sign it to make her happy, and then she enforced it. So did I feel treated unfairly? Yes, but I don't know what to say. I just think she's highly injured. And what would I say? When we went up to see Ariel in North Georgia, and her mom was there, and Chris went into the house, and he came back out when he was still intuitive type, and he said, I said, well, what's she like? And he said, well, she just wants love. And that was the last comment I ever had on her. And, she wasn't open to visiting or anything, so I will try that thing and do an apology just for whatever I represent to her. Yeah, and see if, if she's still alive, if there's any healing that can be done.
Well, it might be really powerful to just go back over this recording with pen and paper in hand and look at everywhere that your energy shifts in your voice, and do some work around each of those. It's a lot of places it's ricocheted around in your life, and I'd certainly support you being able to let go of that and just stand in trust and treat yourself fairly.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I like that. And I could hear and feel the voice changes as you reminded me that came up, so I think that would be a good idea. So I can just go to the archives and find this by date? Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you, I know how to do that easier than you do, Patrick, so when the show's over, I'll get the link and I'll just text it to you.
I thought I had an immense amount of work to do, but, it's like talking to you, I got more than an immense amount. And I know that it's appropriate at this time because I'm willing, if that's important, and to get to the level of enjoyment that I have chosen in life, all this is necessary to get there. The release of all this yang stuff so I can have my yin enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Whoa. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. What a relief it is.
Oh, man. What a lot of stuff just got brought up again. What a relief it is to know that I will be releasing it the rest of the way, processing it, and going to a higher level of peace and happiness and joy. That's the Lord. Hey. Oh, Lord. Thank you.
All right, my friend.
I hope this helps somebody else besides me. But I will take it because there's a lot of people just making me better. Goodbye. All right.
I'm sure it opens the space for many people. You or us.
Yeah, even if nobody ever listens to this but me, because of me processing, it's going to bring a lot of peace to a lot of people. Yes, please. Thank you. On we go.
Cool. We'll hold the space, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Lots of love and
Bye-bye.
blessings. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Blessings.
Breathing.
We do have another hand up.
Great. Let's say hello.
808. I believe this is Roma.
This is Roma. Hi,
Aloha.
everybody.
Welcome, young lady.
Thank you. Have you ever heard of a blood condition called Rouleau, Rouleau?
Somewhere back in medical training, yes, but I really don't have any brain cells for tapping into it. Tell me why you asked.
Because I've been told by two people who analyze blood. I've seen
right.
it. I've seen the pictures of my own blood. And what happens is the red corpuscles are all sticking together in little trains, like chains. Yeah, and I had my blood done 2 different times over an 8-year span, and it was still the same. The rouleau was still there, and I've looked it up on the internet, and I haven't been able to. I don't. First of all, I don't know what causes it, and I don't know what to do about it. But I think it might be the reason that I have low energy. I mean, my common sense tells me that if the red corpuscles were all crunching together, that they're not free to be able to interact with the oxygen and the energy. So,
right, it's going to be difficult for them to get into the cell itself, to get through the capillary and get into the cell.
Anyway, I just wondered if you had any knowledge about that.
I just did a quick search, and it says that one of the causes is that the plasma protein concentration gets high.
What do you suppose that phrase means? Plasma protein concentration gets high.
Probably that your blood isn't processing protein well, or your body isn't processing protein well. And that means that it might be helped if you started to take some proteolytic enzymes. Proteolytic means protein digesting. And so that might be helpful. And if you'd like, when I get off the show, I'll send you a link to some good proteolytic enzymes.
Oh, okay. That would help me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that might help break that clumping up.
Okay. All right, I'll get off and we'll let someone else come in.
All right, young lady. I will be in touch. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye. Well, Miss Jeanie, it looks like we've got about 3 minutes left. Do we have anybody out there
no
with
other
a
questions?
thought? Is Tippia back with any other thoughts?
No, she actually said thank you. She understood and good night. So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, she's at about 2 o'clock in the morning over there in Thailand, so glad you had the chance to join us.
Yeah.
Well, this morning, Jeanie and I were doing Jeanie was doing some still point breathing and touching into some energetic patterns with holding in her structure, and she got this really interesting message. If you remember, we've talked about, and I'm just going to share that because we've got a couple of minutes here, sweetie. We've talked before about a movie called Concussion, and in it, the doctor who discovered one of the things that's happening with football players and people who have head injuries is that the brain doesn't have much protection and can't process the energies of impact. And in the movie, the fellow, this medical doctor who discovers this particular syndrome, talks about how a woodpecker, they're hammering away on this piece of wood, literally their tongue wraps around their brain 3 times and acts like a seatbelt that holds on to the brain and protects it. And so as we were doing this work and Jeanie's doing some letting go, she says to me, is there a woodpecker around? She's hearing this woodpecker going on. I said, no, there's nothing out here, honey. It must be inside. And all of a sudden she came up with, the message I get is the woodpecker is made to hold on, but I'm not. and with that came a whole other level of release for Jeanie. So it was pretty, it's like, the universe has a sense of humor. It was pretty funny. So nice piece of work, sweetheart.
Thank you.
All right, well, everybody, we appreciate you, and we're here to hold the space. If we can be of any help, questions, answers, thoughts, ideas. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same station. Be blessed. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce and myself, Jeanie Ryce, and Dr. Tim Hayes and Michelle Pichet, as we present the first century Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. We are here for 2 hours every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 2 o'clock Eastern Time on MindShifters Radio. For more information on Aramaic forgiveness, please visit www.whyagain.org. That's www.whyagain.org.